so let's look at this mass percent problem. Determine the mass percent composition of the following, CaCl2. Okay, so I want to know the mass percent. For Ca and Cl. So I have to do each of them. So let's do the first one. So if I want to do the mass percent of Ca, then on top it's got to be the Ca. How many Cas do I have? I only have one Ca in this compound. Divided by the whole thing times 100. All right. So then I need to figure out, well, what's the mass of my Ca? I actually gave them to you right here. This is the mass of Ca, this is the mass of Cl. That would have been found on the periodic table. So I made your life a little bit easier. So this is just 1 times 40.08 divided by the mass of the whole thing. So I need to add up the whole thing. You have 1 Ca, you have 2 chlorines. This is 1 times 40.08. This is 2 times 35.45. And you get 110.98 grams per mole. So then we do 110.98 grams per mole times 100, and when we do this math, we get that the mass percent is going to be 36.11% for Ca. Okay? Now, you might say, well, I only have to do Ca and Cl. So if Ca is 36.11, well, let me subtract that from 100 to get Cl. You could do that if you were running out of time. But I recommend what you do is find both of them separately, and then a way to check your work is to see if the two add up together. Okay? Because then if you got one of them wrong, then you could go back and check. But if you did the subtraction part, if you said 100 minus Ca, if Ca is wrong, then Cl is also going to be wrong. Okay? So do them separately. So now let's do the mass percent for Cl. So that's 2 times the Cl times the whole thing, CaCl2, times 100. So Cl is 35.45. And we already did the whole thing because it's the same compound, so it's still that 110. The bottom doesn't change because it's still the same total compound. So then when you do this top number is 70.9. So 70.9 divided by 110 gives you the mass percent of Cl to be 63.88%. Okay, so 63.88% is Cl, and then the mass of Ca is 36.11. Then we can check. So let's see if we're right. So if we add these together, 36.11, 63.88, we get 99.99. 99.99 is very close to 100. So I'm happy with that. So now my Ca, my Cl, my mass percent, and I'm done. All right? So that is how to find the mass percent of an element within the compound. Now the next lecture, we're going to talk about how do I use this number. So say instead of trying to find the mass percent in a problem I gave you this, I can actually use this mass percent as a conversion. So this is going to be our first way that we're going to learn how to go from one thing to something completely different. So far we've gone from like grams to moles or grams to molecules, but it's always been of the same element to the same element, or the compound to the compound. We just changed its units. Now we're going to be able to learn how to go from one thing to something completely different. Okay? So that's going to be really exciting, and that's what we'll talk about in the next lecture.